Although barefoot running has existed for years, a recent shoe design has brought the practice back into the limelight, and it's causing several BYU professors to question its effects. Reporter Sariah Burdge steps into the lab and onto the track to bring you the details.
They're called minimalist five-finger running shoes, and they've grown extremely popular over the years. With the help of a local doctor, BYU's exercise science professors were able to study the effects of transitioning to the shoes on the bones in your feet.
A radiologist came to us and said he'd been noticing a lot of foot injuries with runners to the bones of the feet and was attributing it to people switching to different footwear or no footwear before their bodies adapted and ready for it.
Ian Hunter and his team performed a study on a group of 36 daily runners. About half of the runners wore traditional running shoes, while the other half were switching to a brand of five-finger shoes called Vibrams.
We looked at the website for the Vibram company and found they were recommending taking 10 weeks to transition into their footwear for running. And so we went with a 10-week plan. We had them gradually progressing, not just all of a sudden in it, and the first time it was just a few miles.
Dallin Gray was selected to transition to the Vibrams over the suggested 10-week period.
I was kind of skeptical at first. I wore it a couple times, and she's like, just make sure you go slow. So I definitely did that. She said you would switch, so run a mile in the Vibrams and then take them off, and then keep running in your regular shoes.
These are the minimalist shoes that Dallin was wearing, and the interesting thing about them is it has a different spot for each toe. They're very lightweight and flexible.
They're basically like a glove for the foot. The idea is to provide a little bit of protection for the skin of the feet, but to allow your foot to do the absorption of shock.
After 10 weeks of following the Vibram recommendation, the BYU professors were surprised at the results.
We found that there was a much higher risk of injury to the bones of the foot when taking only 10 weeks to make this transition. We had about half of our subjects in the Vibram group. There were 19 that finished the study in that group. 10 of them ended up with some sort of injury or development of injury.
Although a member of the Vibram group, Dallin was one of the lucky subjects who didn't end up with injuries. Making the transition was a change for his body, though, which is expected.
I ran like a half mile or a mile the first time, and my shins were pretty tender afterwards.
An interesting note about the shoes is how they aren't very different from the regular track spikes that athletes have been wearing for decades.
There's not much support in the heel if we think of track spikes. They're pretty similar to the amount of cushioning there is a little bit of cushioning even in these. Pretty similar, although these are a bit heavier. They need to be more durable. You want them to last a long time.
Dallin says he's enjoyed running in the shoes since the study.
I like running barefoot. It's like running on the beach in the sand, so you can run anywhere, and that way you still have the protection on your foot, but without having a big clunky shoe.
While Dallin was okay with the transition period of only 10 weeks, half of the subjects in his group were mildly injured. BYU professors still recommend taking it slow so that your bones and muscles have time to adjust if you're switching to barefoot shoes. Sariah Burdge, BYU Weekly.